Hello and welcome everybody to the weekly meeting of Aquaholics Anonymous. I'm of course your host, James with Fisher and Fever, and my dear good friend and co-host, Chattanooga Ed. I appreciate all of you for being here. I'm going to run through and say some hellos real quick. We've got an awesome subject we're going to get into here shortly, but pull this up here. As far up as I can go as Dragon Lair, I know Amy with Sand Creek Aquatics 2 was in here much earlier, but we've also got Cody Sun T-Bone, William Pride and more, Colored Guppies. This is going to be interesting because there was some good combo beforehand. Sarah Lynn Snow, I think I said Colored Guppies. If not, hello, Colored Guppies. Roll through here. I know we had Petzotic / multiple aquariums further down. Rockford Fish Keeping is in the house. Rolling on down. John Larson, how are you, my friend? Good to see you. There's Petzotic / multiple aquariums. Susan for SLC Aquatics, always good to see you. Fish Fam Mom, appreciate you being here. The Zen Ginger, T-Bone, Mr. Fish Sir, how are you, Brad? Almost down there. My brightness on my secondary monitor is a lot lower than it normally is, so I'm having a harder time picking up all the names. Fish Pappy, what's going on? And Roland Sandy Doty, good to see you as well. Darlene's Tanks, Furloughs Tanks, what's going on? And again, Eric, love the name change, and I'm glad you started the channel. Let me bring that up real quick. Most of you all are familiar with Eric Furlough. You see him in all the chats and hanging out in the live streams. He has recently changed his name to Furloughs Aquatics, and he has started a YouTube channel. If we can get the link in here for him, I think that would be very, very cool. I think he's got like 17 subscribers as of the beginning of the Kidgy Tropicals live stream. So if we could get him a couple more, I think you all will enjoy it. So yeah, there's that. Brian P. Because Beth, I saw a couple other people. Scully Fish, I'm really off. Normally I can fly through this. Justin Powers, Mismatched Tanks, Leah Jet, Mrs. Fever is here as well. Vanoxky's Tanks, how's it going? I know I missed a couple people. I'm sorry. I am stumbling today. It's been a busy day. My buddy here, Chattanooga Ed, that way, was kind enough to drive up to Knoxville and let me use his truck so that I could get the 220-gallon aquarium moved from storage into the house. So it is now here, and then I can get started. It's been in storage for 10 years. So I am going to do a reseal. I'm not even going to tempt fate and try and use it as is. I also need to replace the braces. It's got dual braces on the top, or it did anyways. Those are broken. They're not even existent anymore. I think when I put it in storage, I just went ahead and ripped them off because they were already broken. But it's going to be interesting. Gina French says, you missed me. And then Sarah Lynn Snow, oh my goodness, she's getting the full get up here. Hold on a second. I got to do this. $50 super chat. I can't not do this for her. I haven't even read it yet, but let's do this. Let's get ready for it. This is going to make an interesting stream because that's going to be hanging around for a while. Let's see what's going on. All right. The glasses may have to come off, and let me grab a couple of these. And then I'm going to read it, and then we're going to get back into business. But Sarah Lynn Snow, thank you. Oh, my goodness. $50 super chat. That is amazing. Thank you very much. And let's go up here and read it. It says, showing appreciation. My goldfish and pleco are like my dog family. I can absolutely understand that. I'm very grateful for all of the advice you have been giving me. Been able to get trusted advice has not only helped my fish, but calmed my nerves with fish care and my pond setup, where you are absolutely more than welcome. No donations ever required for help. I'm always glad to help. We need to get people into the hobby and to keep people in the hobby. So I'm glad to do that. Thank you so much. And I'm glad everything's doing well. I think you've got some awesome stuff going on, and I'm looking forward to seeing that big setup. I don't know if I should disclose too much of what you got going on. You may want to do that yourself. But thank you again, Sarah Lynn Snow. Very much appreciated. My goodness. Let's see. Dan Slee says the beach is in, and I'm lurking. Let me get down here. I know we had Grumpy Mike coming in with that super pooper chat. Thank you, Grumpy Mike, pooping on the stream. Hey, that one actually hit the camera. Wow. Always appreciate you, buddy. Great guy. Always glad to have you here. And I appreciate that you crap on me every time you see me. So thank you. Eric Furlough throwing down the $5 super chat for Furloughs Aquatics says, thanks for the call out, my friend. Much appreciated. Absolutely. I was so glad when I saw the Furloughs Aquatics. I was like, I wonder if he's starting a channel. And then you mentioned you had started, so I had to go subscribe to that and watch those couple videos you've got up. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Not necessary, but very much appreciated. Especially with everything going on and trying to grow the store that is now live. That stuff is always very helpful, and it means a lot to me as well. So thank you for that. I will say, Eric, if you didn't know, your second vid after your intro is set to made for kids, so I could not comment on it. Otherwise, I would have left you a comment, but I gave you a thumbs up on there, buddy. James got the wig working. Yeah, I didn't put on the bra just because I have to take the headset off to do that, but we're going to throw the full get up on here. I mean, that should give everybody some laughs. I'll have to take off the glasses to get through the topic because I've got a lot of notes. We're not going to go into deep depth on all of these things, but the topic for tonight is regarding a book and some of the recommendations they had then and how they match up now in terms of what we typically would recommend for a beginner. So let me through here. I think I got everybody. I didn't see any highlighted comments. I said, well, Crystal, hello. I saw you posted a video earlier. I haven't watched it just yet, but I will get to that. I guess I should mention the online store. Let me start off by saying it is not anything KG Tropicals style in terms of size. It is simply me as a hobbyist. Fish make babies, plants grow. And then I do have a small dry goods section of some stuff that I have brought in. I am going to continue to expand on dry goods and things that I feel would be helpful and useful to carry. I'm not just going to bring in crap to sell, if you will. But I guess I say that because there's not a massive selection or quantity. So, if a dozen people were to go on there right now and want to get a bunch of stuff, it would probably wipe out the livestock section. Just because I'm not importing fish, I'm not wholesaling fish. It's just stuff that I've bred, and I've got lots of it, or at least extras of it. And then I've probably got about 600 fry in the fish rooms, all in all, the fry and juvenile stuff that's not ready to go on there. But it'll continuously be getting updated with, new fish as they're ready for sale and plants and all that good stuff. And I did have my first customer today, Chattanooga Ed. So I have my first dollar to hang up on the wall. So I very much appreciate that. He got some cleaning sponges from me. So
yep.
Thank you, buddy.
And they're very useful.
They are. I love them. I absolutely love them. So I figure that's something that, I talk about them and I recommend them. I might as well have them available on there. Hey, why not? And it's stuff that you can, add on if you're already, getting a pair of guppies or, a plant. There's little stuff you can add on there just to kind of fill the order out, if you will. So there's that. There's the pitch, I guess. The site went live Tuesday for members because that's one of the perks I offered them was early access to anything available from my fish room, and it is officially public as of now. If you wanted to check it out, it is. It's on the fishroomfever.com page. It's page 2. There is a shop tab or a shop hyperlink up at the top. You can click on to go to that. And then I think below the stream times, because I didn't want to put it above the stream times and make the front page about selling stuff. But below the stream times on the main page, there's like a featured items section that would take you to the shop as well. And go up here. I see a lot of highlights. Sorry, go ahead, Ed.
Today I got to go check out James's new setup, and he has made it look so nice. It seemed like I was going into a store almost. It was really cool.
Well, thank you. I really do appreciate that. We've gotten fancy. I even ordered a label maker. And part of that was for not just myself, because when you've got 30 different types of guppies and you've got just fry in a tag, it's like, what was this fish that I put in here 2 weeks ago? But I also thought that would be nice for when people come over and do tours. I know I've offered for Ed to come do a tour, Peck Tech to do a tour. I thought it would be really nice, kind of like when I toured the local fish stores and I can show you all the labels for the tank and you can see what all's in there. Having the labels on the front of the tank, people come over and do a tour and they can go, oh, well, this tank has this is this and this. Oh wait, I didn't see that pleco in there. Oh wait, it's back behind that. So I thought it would be nice and easy for touring and video shooting as well.
Yeah, I need to do that too. It looked really sharp. I was very impressed.
Thank you. Let's see. Hello, Crystal. I'm going through the highlights here real quick. Zen, thank you for posting the link to the shop. Roll down through here. Brad, you as well. And thank you for posting the member link. Pew Fish Zone says, Fisherman Fever, so what's this Aquaticon 2021? So I was part of an event that was going to be hosted here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Pretty much a big weekend fish event, kind of like what KG Tropicals was talking about earlier, with more fish events. We were going to have one here in Knoxville. Silent partner, still silent at this point because we didn't actually get to do it. With the current health situation, part of that setup was going to be, mainly that setup was going to be held in a 40 by 100 foot tent. With the health situation, tents got shipped out for temporary testing sites and then destroyed after that. And tents were being brought in from China. So there was an issue with getting a tent, and then some other things like, vendors and reps weren't going to be able to show up because of the current health situation. So you're like, well, no tent, and then none of these sponsors or reps are going to be able to come out and do anything. So it got postponed to 2021. But that is what Aquaticon is. So I'm looking forward to that next year. It's going to be awesome. Recon 330 says, Fisher Fever, the hair really makes your eyes pop. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll have to wear it out in public more often.
Makes other people's eyes pop too.
Let me check on here. Mr. Fish, sir, thank you for posting links. Hello, Foxy's Fish. How are you? Just rolling through the highlights and catching any questions that I might see along the way as well. John Cox says, Fisher Fever, are you going to offer local pickup even to stranger you have only met once? So technically speaking, I am not going to offer any local sales. And that is because I'm going to be in absolutely zero competition with my local fish store, whose logo I'm now covering. I wanted to wear their shirt. Aquatic Marine, they gave me the shirt. They're Kenny at Aquatic Marine. He is an awesome guy. He's an avid hobbyist who ended up getting into business in the hobby, which is always the best kind of local fish store owner. So I wanted to make sure that there was going to be absolutely zero competition for him, / taking any business away from him. That being said, I consider you a friend. I've met you. So that's a little bit different, but I specifically made sure not to even offer local pickup on the site because I don't want local business, so to speak. Friends and family is a little bit different, but I want to make sure as much money as possible locally goes to the local fish store. Aquatic Marine. These guys, the back of the shirt's really awesome, but I'm not going to stand up right now or this would all fly off and, all that good stuff. Open this back up. All right. Hey, Big J, how are you? Pegasus Arena, good to see you. Sorry, I got to your message late. I apologize. I wasn't available at that time. Hello, Kaya. Always good to see you as well. All right. I think we've made it to the bottom. So, I've got a decent bit of aquarium books, one of which I was reading through again today is this book here, Beginner's Guide to Tropical Fish. And it's not that I need a beginner's guide necessarily, but it's always good to look at different sources, and any information I can get is absolutely wonderful. One of the things I noticed when I first started reading this was some of the recommendations or the product specifically. So I'll show you some pictures out of it. The product specifically, you can see, are a little bit dated. So I looked at it, and this book is actually copyrighted 1986. So it is 34 years old, roughly, depending upon exactly when it was printed in 86. So I was looking, I was like, well, let's read through this and let's see how much of this information is relevant, 3+ decades later. How much of it is still pertinent information? How much of it would we consider inaccurate, almost 4 decades after this book was written? Now, I'm not going to read through this whole book. I've got I kind of wrote down the basic information that they passed along so we can kind of look at it and compare things. But I'm curious, before we really get into it, how many of you think that the information is still valid almost 40 years later, and how many of you think it's probably way outdated and useless? So if any of you want to throw that in the chat, or if you're watching the replay, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think it's going to be like before we get into it. I do want to read a quote from this. So this is part of the introduction. And as soon as I read this, I was like, yep, I'm definitely reading through this book. It is necessary to add that although a great deal can be learned from studying literature on the subject, there is no real replacement for practical experience. As soon as I read that, I'm like, yep, that's good sound advice right there. Because, we can tell you all, you can read it in books. You can go to every YouTube channel there is on fish keeping. But until you actually start keeping fish, you're really not going to know what you might think that you know. That's when you're really going to gain the knowledge, is when you're hands-on with it and you're dealing with the exact parameters that you have in your house, in your tank. So let's see, we've got 90-10, 90 being outdated. That's a good guess. Darlene, and that was for Pegasus Arena. Darlene's tank says, I would think over 80% would still be good. So yeah, so I will tell you, pretty much everything in this book is still information that Ed and I have given, or you'll hear people give to this day. And I'm going to show you some of the pictures as we go through, because I thought they were really funny. But first off, it breaks everything down extremely well and covers all of the steps. So the first step, it's got a good section that talks about just getting the tank. What you should think about when getting the tank. And one of the things it mentions is starting out with a larger aquarium, one, for the ease of maintaining it as a new fish keeper, and two, giving you room to expand on your fish after you familiarize yourself with the hobby and get accustomed to taking care of fish. So again, I thought that was great. That's something I've said before and is still relevant to this day. It goes into from there, it moves into temperature control in terms of a heater and an accurate thermometer. Again, still very good information. The funny thing I thought was, and this dated the book as soon as I read this, is that it mentions purchasing a separate tube heater and thermostat, or you could try and find a heater with the thermostat built into it. And I was like, well, how old is this book? Because all of them now, it's built into it. You turn the dial. So that was my first giveaway. It was like, okay, yeah, this is definitely an older book. So I thought that was kind of funny. There's some other things that we'll get to that definitely date the book when you're reading it. Minister said, wait, James is talking? Oh, okay. Let's see. Make sure I didn't miss much else. Chewy says taxonomy would be very outdated from the 80s, but some of the basics and advice is good if you knew what the hobby dealt with at the time or sooner in comparison to today. Yeah, absolutely. I was born in 86, so this book is as old as I am. So I did find that it was awesome that the information in here was relevant still. It talked about lighting. I thought this was funny. Of course, this is outdated. This is one of those things that we've moved into LEDs and things like that. But it mentioned you could either go with tungsten bulbs, which tungsten being the filament that was in the bulbs that were standard at that time, or you could spend more money to get into your fluorescent tubing lights for it. And then they had some information about, mixing the two different types together. Wattage recommendations, if you're going with a strip, was 10 watts per gallon, and with a bulb style was 25 watts per gallon. And then I thought this was neat, and not that this is necessarily outdated, but just this thought, because I still hear people talk about it, but I don't necessarily do it. They recommend placing the light up at the front of your tank so that the light reflects off the side of the fish and gives you a better view of them, versus placing it in the middle or the back, where oftentimes if the fish is at the front, you get a silhouetted appearance or a silhouetted view. So I thought that was a neat thing that I wanted to bring up. I always stick mine usually in the middle for maximum, exposure front and back. Somebody's going to make a comment about that right there. Oh, goodness. Let's see. Rocker Fish Keeping says, Fisherman Fever, how funny we came full circle. Some of the high-end heaters are separate again, like Phoenix. Yeah, and that's true. And we have come full circle on some other things. Box filters and sponge filters used to be the thing. And then we moved on to power filters and, the canisters and all that. And then a lot of people have gone back to sponges, or they never left sponges in boxes. GRB says 71 watching, 50 likes. Please consider hitting the thumbs up button. Thank you. Well, I appreciate each and every one of you all here. Thank you for hitting a thumbs up. And if you're just watching and didn't hit it, thank you anyway. Make sure I haven't missed any other highlighted comments. I think we are good. I'm going to grab a drink really quick. So what do you think about the info so far, Ed?
Oh, I think it's pretty neat. I thought it was going to be a really interesting subject that when you brought it up earlier today. And like little tips like the lights, that's not a bad idea for, the plane or for to see your fish a little better.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, it's kind of like, if you look at Father Fish, he goes back 50 years worth of knowledge that's almost been lost. So it's like it's weird how our hobby, it's always kind of fluid. It's always fluid in its fish. It's always moving on us.
Yes.
And trying to advance, but sometimes our advancements aren't necessarily advancements.
Absolutely.
A lot of our industry, or a lot of our hobby, I think, was dictated by capitalism with companies that just wanted to make money. Like at the end of the 80s, the box filter, or the hang on the back, took over, and the box filters went out the window. And, I mean, we had survived on box filters for years when I was a kid.
So
and this was just to be able to make money, I think, to sell those stupid cartridges.
That's a hang-on back that was current for that time. Now, sorry, go ahead.
Well, they're making a lot better now that you can put your own media in there and everything. And I love the ones now, even though I admit I bought the first Whisper that came out. I think it was the Whisper was like one of the first ones, and and I loved them because they were just so easy, but they were costly.
Did the box look like that, Ed? That's the Whisper power filter.
Yes, it did.
The Whisper.
Does it still look like that?
No, this is the box, as it would have been in 1986.
I might have one in the other room because I think I look at that every so often.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm going to grab a couple things real quick. Mississippi Hippie, how are you? Says, I've been in the hobby about 40 years. I'm sure lots of it is still relevant. Some things don't change, like the nitrogen cycle. I've gone back to the old 70s box filters. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, a lot of it doesn't change. And I was glad to see that most of the information is still relevant and that it actually had some good information in it. You never know when you grab a random book exactly what's going to be in it. I've got one from Animal Planet. Ed's got a different Animal Planet version of a book, but I've got one I'm curious to see exactly what it is. I know one of the books I bought, I skimmed through it and the information was horrible, but that's part of the reason I bought it, so that we could at some point discuss that and kind of go over where, at least in my opinion, I disagree and vary from them. It's an old book, I feel attacked. This was made the year I was born. So in relevance in terms of age, because time is a relative thing. I feel old, so I call this an old book. But
yes, just relax.
Just the same as if I saw a dollar bill from '86, I go, oh, that's an old dollar bill. That's been around a while. So no apologies to anybody who feels attacked regarding the age thing. Not my intention. And then I think, where was it? Susan. Yeah, Susan for SLC Aquatics says, how many years have you kept fish with live plants, Fish Room Fever? So with plants, really only about a year and a half. I tried plants several times previously in the hobby and always did horribly with them, but have had really good luck this past run. Got into it this last time and just everything seems to grow wonderfully here. And it may have been the water source I was on was not great and I wasn't doing what I needed to do to compensate for that. But I did really, really well with plants now, but it's not been a really long time. Yeah, John says, I've been a fish keeper, or I have been fish keeping longer than James has been alive. Yes, absolutely. We got several people in here that have, and I think that's a phenomenal thing. And I one day hope to be able to look back and go, I've been in the hobby for 50 years, 60 years, however long I live, to stay in the hobby until the point that I am no longer around. Recon 338 says, Fish Room Fever, I'm curious what the book says about nitrates. A lot of mysterious fish deaths seem to get blamed on them, but if you research it, it doesn't seem they are near as toxic as is often said. So it does mention the cycle in here. It doesn't go really in depth in the cycle, but it does reference it a couple times in terms of plants and nitrates. But it really doesn't go through the cycle. So that could be one downside, if you will, as it doesn't explain the nitrogen cycle. And we'll get to a comment in here about when you first set up your tank. So there's not a lot of explaining on that. I missed. There it is. Fantastic Freaks with the $5 super chat. Nothing attached to it. Just throwing some money out there. I appreciate that. Now, Fantastic Freaks is going to be the guest on the Saturday Night Fever live stream coming up this weekend. I think that's going to be a blast. Fantastic Freaks got some awesome tanks. Awesome guy to talk to. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be really fun. And then the Saturday after that, we are doing a super special with Aquamate because he's an Aussie and our stream times overlap due to the time change there. So that'll be fun. But this Saturday, be sure to watch Fantastic Freaks. And before then, go check out his channel. Go see what he's got going on. That way you can come up with some questions for him for Saturday's stream. Roll down through here. Bob Kaler, Kaler's Aquatics, is pooping on the chat. Thank you, Bob. Couldn't hold it in any longer. I appreciate that very much, buddy. Looking forward to getting to see you again soon. It's been a while. I'm sorry it didn't work out to be able to go with you up to Kentucky to that, but I understand you had prior obligations. Nevertheless, was disappointed I didn't get to see you. But thank you for that, Bob Kaler. So I'm going to run through this. We've got about 30 minutes left, and this is part of why I'm not really getting deep on the subject, but I do want to kind of touch on that information so you all can get an idea of what it had in it. Let's see. There was something else with the lights. Oh, I was going to mention. I'll mention that when we get to the filter portion. And they do mention if your light doesn't, or if your tank doesn't come with like a lid light combo or some sort of a top, you should buy a cover, to reduce fish jumping out and also to help minimize water loss through evaporation. So that's not changed. We still really recommend covers for all the tanks, even though you've got people like me that have more uncovered aquariums than most people have aquariums, period. But that's something that I'll remedy eventually. I'm working on it. Let's see. John Cox says, Fisher Fever, I have to get a picture of what I have left of the old hang on back filter made in the 60s that I found when cleaning out Mom's barn. Yes, I would love to see that. I'm sure that looks very cool. I love seeing the older products. So, and then it mentions air. It just says it's not absolutely essential, but it's definitely beneficial for plants and fish. And they had a comment in there. They said, now it increases the support, or it increases how many fish the system can support by 50%, but don't be tempted to double the amount of fish you put in there.
Wait, what?
By adding an air pump, by adding aeration to the tank, it increases the oxygen in the water enough to support twice as many fish as it would support without it. But don't be tempted to double the amount of fish you have in there because you add an air stone. Because then in the event of a power loss while you're away, the fish will die quicker.
Oh.
So yeah, it just mentions how it speeds up the process of gassing off the bad stuff and allowing oxygen into the tank.
I think Nico just discovered there's fish in the tanks because he can't decide what tank, but it really hurts when he jumps full claws on my back to get to see them. So, I don't understand. He's just all excited to see the fish all of a sudden.
Here's one of my favorite parts of the book. It goes filtration. They mentioned box filters. And then, and this is a quote, the more recent innovation, under gravel filters. Now tell me that doesn't date the book. Under gravel filters were a more recent innovation at the time.
I remember when I got my first one, it was a pretty big deal.
Right, absolutely. And they're still awesome. People still use those. I've got nothing against them. Real quick, let me grab this. Moonstone Aquatics. Kim, thank you very much for the $20 super chat. Says, toes in the water, butt in the sand. Hope life is good for you today. Yes, it is phenomenal. I've been on kind of a personal hot streak, if you will, even though the numbers have kind of declined on the channel. You all are like pulling me out of that little bit of a funk. But and that's because I haven't put any videos out, so that's my own fault. But I've been on kind of a personal hot streak in terms of organizing and moving tanks and getting the fish rooms rebuilt. You know, we got the big tank in today, so I could get the piranha moved into it and get it set up. I got the store up and running. So yes, it is a good day, and life is good. Thank you very much.
And he's done so much; it's unbelievable on construction and everything in his fish room.
I appreciate it. My trick, and I'm not recommending this to anybody, and it certainly isn't healthy for everyone. But I'm actually sleeping every other day, but it's like 12 hours when I do sleep. So it's like sleeping 6 hours a day, right? I just, divide it out, and it's like, sleeping 6 hours. It works for me.
So you're up for 48?
Not quite 48, but I won't sleep tonight. I'll sleep tomorrow night. But when I do sleep, it'll be for like 10 or 12 hours. So it divides back out to 5 or 6 hours a night. And it's all good. But that's allowed me to get a lot accomplished. Just kind of going all in. Again, Kim, Moonstone Aquatics, thank you very, very much for that. Very much appreciated. And it helps a lot. It can be challenging at times trying to live your dreams. But we're going to persist. It's only failure when you quit. Until then, it's just a learning experience. So we're going to keep on having learning experiences and keep pushing on. And I certainly appreciate you all helping to make that possible. Let's see. Go ahead, buddy.
Today, he moved his 220-gallon tank with just his brother-in-law's help and him in my truck, because I can't do that type of stuff because of my bad back. And I couldn't believe how well he moved it, and it is so huge. It looks so much bigger than my 200. It's unbelievable. My 200's taller. It's about a foot taller, but tell you, I think yours is 2 feet longer.
Yeah, well, it's 6 foot by 2 foot by 30 inches. If you calculate the outer dimensions, it's 224 point something gallons. So I figure inner dimensions is probably a 220 gallon roughly. But it's what I bred piranha in before. So who knows? Hopefully I can get these guys going. I see Bob Kaler with Kaler's Aquatics. Apparently I'm putting him to sleep. Bob, I'm sorry. Let's wake him up with a party popper here. Yeah, I like that Moonstone. Moonstone Aquatics says winners never quit and quitters never win. I'm going to jump back to this because we've got about 26 minutes, and I want to touch on these points because it's still good information. If you're getting into the hobby, this is something that this would actually be a valuable live stream to listen to with good information in it because it goes over some really key points. But they mentioned box filters and the more recent under gravel filters, along with 25% weekly water changes, which is kind of a standard recommendation still. Especially, again, this is focused towards somebody who's never owned a fish tank before. So that's a good recommendation for somebody who's just getting into fish keeping. And then one thing, and I'll find the picture, they didn't actually talk about it. So until after I'd gone through the book a couple times, I didn't even realize, there was a picture of it. But they actually also showed a diatom filter using diatomaceous earth. Sorry, Ed's got his glasses on now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's basically like a power head that's hooked up to a system with a filter socket there, and you would put diatomaceous earth inside of it. So I'm curious if anybody in here has ever run a diatom filter. That was one of the things I wanted to see because I know we've got some fish keepers that have been in the hobby much longer than I have been here or even been around for that matter. So if you've ever used a diatom filter, let me know in the chat or in the comments if you're watching the replay. Shout out. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I got a real quick question about that. Is that actually with the soil in it, or is it for killing algae?
That is actually, it says was used with so it says the diatom filter works on diatomaceous earth and makes water sparkling clear, and that's all the information. That's just a caption right above the picture.
Okay. Well, it must kill everything that's in the water also.
It's got to be.
Maybe you can catch through it because I know that.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just say Dan Slee says, "Yep, great for clearing up green water."
Okay, well, Gary Jones, he has a video. He bought a great big diatomaceous filter for his pond, And it didn't actually have the soil in it. It had like little straws that had blades on it or something that would actually kill the algae as it goes through. And I haven't seen that video for like 2 years, so I'm just remembering it. But I was just wondering if it was the same thing. But that's really cool.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of people that know about them. Dragon Lair says, let me get all the party popper off the screen here. Dragon Lair says, James, I had one of those diatomaceous filters. Will clean green water tank in 1 hour. John Cox says, never used one, but saw them back in the day. It uses Diatom earth to scrub the water. And Chevy Fish said, use them all the time, Fish Room Fever. Diatom filter polishes water. So lots of people have used them. I kind of figured we'd have some people in here that had used them. Grumpy Mike's Fish with the thumbs up pair. Thank you very much for that $3 super sticker with the thumbs up pair. I appreciate you, buddy. I really, really do. Grumpy Mike's another awesome fish guy. Let me see. Okay. Oh, it mentioned you should get 2 nets when setting up your tank, both made out of the soft nylon versus mesh because it's easier on the fish and it doesn't hurt them as much. And both about 4 inches by 5 inches. And they mention that specifically so that when you have to net your fish, you use one net to scare it into the other versus chasing them around with one net. So I thought that was kind of neat to recommend to a beginner hobbyist because that's not something a beginner would probably think about. First time having fish, if they've got to catch them, going, oh, I should get 2 nets and try and do it that way. I just grab them with my hands, even the piranhas. And then they mentioned a plastic scraper, and definitely don't use wire wool. That was a big thing that stuck out. In terms of setup, and I'm just going to kind of breeze through these just so we can get through it. And if any people have questions or comments, we still have a little bit of time because we've got about 22 minutes left. And setup, they mentioned proper placement and the fact that water is heavy. The 62 pounds per cubic foot, which sounds about right at 8 and some odd pounds per gallon. And of course, make sure a standard table that you're going to use can support the weight. Still, good information. They recommend putting it at a convenient viewing height, about 3 foot the base of the tank, 3 feet off the ground was their recommendation for setting up the viewing height. I thought that was interesting, but then again, I don't really have many one tank setups. Just about everything is, racks, but I think that seems about right. For just somebody who's setting up one tank to Kaylor says, don't pet the piranha. I try not to. That's going to be fun. I am going to videotape when I have to catch all 25 of these and move them over into the big tank. So I'm going to film the whole process from the resealing of the tank to building the new bracing system. Hopefully it can help somebody out there. And if not, hey, we've got it documented and it's been fun, right? Let's see. They mentioned don't put it in front of a window. If you do have natural light coming in, try to have that, at a right angle to the window, not like directly across from the window. And somewhere easily accessible for maintenance. So again, all very good tips. It does say you should wash out your tank. Make sure not to use any cleaners, no detergents. They recommended to fill it and leave it overnight for a leak test, which I thought was smart. Especially if it's a new person. You don't want a new person setting up the tank, having it in place, and then they come up the next morning in their living room. I forget the word that they used for living room. I think they called it a sitting room. Having water in your sitting room floor.
Did they recommend vinegar?
They actually did. They did not recommend vinegar. They just recommended washing it with water. You could certainly use vinegar. But that was not one of the recommendations. So there's something you could kind of add to the information, if you will. And then they did recommend rinsing your gravel well before you do it, and then to go ahead and scape your gravel. I won't get into full detail, but the way they recommended it was basically a stair-step system where you want your gravel higher in the back and then down to 1 inch height in the front. And then you're almost building like a Coliseum seating, if you will, where it's all leaning down to the front. And they also recommended you could use rocks or pieces of glass or plexiglass to like make stair steps. So you'd have one level and then it's against plexiglass, and then your next level started lower, and then the same thing for 3 or 4 steps.
Wow.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
They also had like a picture of how to scape your tank in terms of where to put your tall plants, where to put your tall bushy plants, your medium, and all that. And I thought that was pretty cool, especially for the entry level fish keeper. Let's see, rinse it, fill it. They recommended using a piece of glass angled against the front glass when you filled it, so you didn't stir up all your gravel and everything that you had in there, so that it would trickle in. I thought that was cool. And then to plant it when it was about 3/4 full of water versus filling it to the top. Again, I think a good recommendation. And then adding your fancy heat setup with your independent, tube and thermostat and thermometer. They did say, and this is where they didn't really talk about the nitrogen cycle, and I wish they would have, or I think they should have, but I could kind of understand entry level not wanting to put that in there. They said let it sit fishless for 1 week, so it will age the water and dechlorinate. It will also give time for the plants to take root and the temperature to adjust to what it needs to be at. So I thought that was good information. I don't know exactly what they had. 34, 35 years ago, we got plenty of people that were in the hobby here. You can tell me, what was available for cycling an aquarium at that point in time specifically. But given the fact that this is basically a medium to fully planted tank that they're recommending you set up, I feel like letting it sit fishless for a week, and then going into their stocking recommendations of just adding a few fish to start with and progressing from there. I thought that was really good information to help the entry-level hobbyist succeed, and I still think that's good information. Multi-Tank Addiction says, yes, rinse your gravel, otherwise it will get quite stinky. Absolutely, I always rinse my substrates before they go in. Pew Fish Zone says, Fisherman Fever, where did you get your piranha? I got them off of the internet, aquascapeonline.com or .net. They're in New Jersey. I ordered off of there. They have piranha listed year-round. They've got a whole bunch of different types of piranha. I got my Caribe piranha off of there back when they were 1/2 inch to 1 inch size, and now they're 6 inches. Some of them closer to 7. I've got like one little runt that's about 4.5 or 5, but they're definitely growing rapidly. Oh, we got Kaler's Aquatics. Bob Kaler throwing the $20 super chat up there. I think he knew it was time for me to take the wig off, and he had to remedy that. Thank you very much, Bob. I do really appreciate you, buddy. $20 super sticker with the fox with the hat waving the #1 flag. I think he also wanted to see the animation because he knows I do the animation of it. So thank you very much, Bob. I really do appreciate you, my friend. I'm glad
I had to put my glasses. I had to put my glasses on to see what it was.
Yeah, it looks like it's almost got like a samurai hat on.
Yeah, it's a samurai. I think it's giving directions to the other samurais on how to destroy you.
Oh, no, don't do that. Dragular says, Dan, that's the name of the one from the 70s. I missed part of a conversation, it looks like. I went to the Vortex homepage, and all they advertised were a few replacement parts, said they no longer made the filter. So I missed something, but roll through here. Delilah's Critter says, I'm shocked I kept bettas for as long as I did, not knowing the nitrogen cycle. I guess between using water conditioner and carbon with a hardy fish was a successful enough combination. Absolutely. I find that a lot of people tend to get lucky when they first start out, or maybe they're just naturally, good fish keepers. And so they manage to keep fish alive even without knowing what they're doing in terms of, hey, I should be doing this. They end up kind of doing the things they need to anyways. Mary Paige Flynn, how are you? Thank you for being here and throwing the 99-cent sunglasses. I gotta get sunglasses for that one. We got sunglasses. The sunglasses smiley on there. How are you? Thank you for that, Mary Paige. Mary Paige is part of the wonderful replay crew a lot of the times, along with CJ Black. Chad Krotz is on there a lot. And then, of course, Tampa Tom Fishing, always hitting the replays. Very much appreciate you all. And it's always awesome when I can see y'all in person in here. Black Label Carling, I saw you earlier in the hellos, and I forgot to say hi, and I see your name again, and now it's reminded me. So sorry for that. Chris with Multi-Tank Addiction pooping on the stream. Thank you, brother, for the #2 from you. I appreciate you, my friend. I'll take these off so I can read the rest of this real quick. So going through there, let it sit fishless for a week. We got that. We're almost through the main information on this. But again, I think that most of these are relevant tips. So if you're listening to this now and you're a beginning fish keeper, there are things that could help you out. But it's interesting also for those of us that have been in the hobby for, I'll say, a decent amount of time, over a decade. And it's probably something that, people that have been in the hobby 30, 40, 50 years, they're like, I remember that, no biggie. But I thought it'd be something fun to do. Then we get to the adding fish part, and their advice was going and finding a reliable dealer that's able to give you advice. And then they actually had a really good section. I'm not going to go through all the things, but in terms of what you should look for when you're purchasing fish, in terms of quality, potential sicknesses and signs that you stay away from, the things that we all pretty much, I would say for the most of us that are in here, know to look for when we go to look at fish in a pet store. We can look and go, I don't want that one. Its belly sunken in, or that one might have fin rot, that type of stuff. But I'm not going to go through all that stuff. I didn't even write it down because I knew that would take far too long. Maintenance was the next thing they got into. And it was basic, when you're feeding, check that everything's in order, make sure your fish look good and your plants look good and all that. They did have a really wonderful section on plants, but that was after this. That's why I haven't touched on that just yet. Let's see. They get into... they mentioned clean the front glass of algae, but leave the sides in the back because a lot of fish like to eat on that, and it's good for the aquarium to have it in there. It's healthy for it. So I thought that was cool, versus having you sanitize the sides of the aquarium, because I'm a big fan of letting the algae grow on there. This part I thought was funny, only in the sense that the other day on Bentley Pasco's stream, he mentioned he had gotten a piece of advice. I want to say it was from Dean at Dean's Fish Room, but he'd gotten some advice that hadn't occurred to him, and he was like, oh, I don't know why that didn't occur to me. He was talking about pH, and the person said, well, use sodium bicarbonate to bring your pH up. And he's like, oh, I'll have to keep that piece of information, and it made me giggle a little because in this book it mentions, for pH, you can buffer it with sodium bicarbonate to bring it up, and then to bring it down using sodium acid phosphate. Now, that's something I have absolutely no experience with, the sodium acid phosphate. So I'm curious if any of you all ever tried that, and what your thoughts are on that versus, I guess, available options now, if you will. And then it mentioned doing pH buffering and gradual changes and nothing, really fast so that you keep your fish safe, and to use a test kit when you're doing it. So good info there. Let me see. Make sure I didn't miss. I saw a couple highlights. Rena said, Fisher Fever, I have officially had my goldfish at Pleco for 4 months. Congratulations. And Kaya's mollies are 2 months. Awesome. And
wow, that's great.
And I am glad everything's doing well. Hey, Guppy Guru, glad to see you, Peter. So just got back home tonight, going to rest up and get to work again this weekend so I can start making videos and things. Awesome. Looking forward to it.
I was going to wear my Guppy Guru t-shirt. I left it in the kitchen, and I forgot to put it on. I'm so sorry, Peter. I will try better, and I'll wear it on Saturday, hopefully, if I remember.
Why Not in Wyoming is asking, and hello, good to see you as always, says, what is your longest untouched running aquarium? I move them around too much. I've had to move them, and so I don't really have one. I just got back into the hobby a little under 2 years ago, year and a half, year and 3/4 ago. So I don't have anything that's been up that long. I think the longest running one that hasn't been touched would probably be the piranha tank that's across from me right here, because they've been in that since they were really little. It's maybe a year. Now, if you mean untouched by I don't do anything to it, I don't have one that doesn't get water changes or anything like that. You can do setups like that where you fully plan it. You do, deep sand bed, things like that, and you can stock it to levels to where it's like a, hey, I don't have to touch that thing type of setup. And I've heard tale of people that have, had aquariums set up like that for, 6 months to a year, with just doing top offs on it. I don't have anything like that. But right now, all my tanks being moved around, there's really nothing that's untouched at this point. Bob Keller's Aquatics had mentioned that's why my fronts are only clean in reference to scraping algae and such. And I'm the same way. And generally, I don't even scrape the fronts a lot unless I'm filming that tank or if it gets to where I just can't see into it. Let me get through here. Sterling Snow says, Fisherman Fever, is there a good freshwater snail for my pond that will live through the winter? That is a good question. I have not tried to have snails outside.
Well,
I'm sure
your
we've got
best
somebody in
snails.
here. What's that?
Pest snails, I mean, they live year round outside anyway.
Yeah, you could do the pond snail or bladder snail may do well.
But how deep is the pond? Does it completely freeze over, or is it just a few inches?
Yep. Guppy Guru says, Sarah, there's a pond snail that you can get at your local pond store. Usually make it through the winter. Striped bladder snails. So yeah, there we go. See, sometimes you know things and you just know them without knowing them. I take a lot of educated guesses. They just tend to be correct. If I can't take an educated guess that I'm like 99.9% positive is accurate, I just say, I don't know. But yeah, thank you, Guppy Guru, for that. Fisherman Fever says, 7 years I started the tank freshman year of high school and tore it down to move it to my first home after college. See, that's awesome. Dragonlair says, apple snails if you're in zone 8. I think I'm caught up real quick, so I'm going to knock the rest of this out. Really, the only other thing left was feeding. And they mentioned, don't feed more than what the fish can eat in 5 minutes. They recommend feeding once a day for beginners. Once you are more familiar with your fish and how much they eat, they recommend, you can feed up to 3 times a day is what they said. Some people feed up to 3 times a day, but always feed in small amounts versus large amounts. So, good info there. Also talked about a variety, feeding a variety of flake foods along with live foods. And they had an entire section dedicated to explaining how to set up cultures for everything from white worms to Daphnia to all that stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool that they actually went through how to set those cultures up, what you needed to do it, what temperatures to keep them at, the time frames for harvesting. Of course, they mentioned brine shrimp and several other things. And then
they have water worms on there?
They had white worms on there. They had white worms, Daphnia.
Are white worms the same as macro worms or micro worms rather?
I don't know. They had black worms on there. I'm trying to think of what else they had. But they had like full tutorials on how to do it. And John Cox says, LOL, breeders feed up to 8 times a day. Yeah, I feed a lot. And so one thing I do want to say, because I know I've had some questions about feeding the extreme flake foods to the guppies. It's 42% minimum crude protein. This stuff right here, the Extreme Nano, it is 52% minimum crude protein. Yes, 52%. I have switched over to this as my primary that I'm feeding to them, and then I also do still feed some of the Krill Flake and the Community Crave. But this is now my go-to. 52% protein, guppies. Gotta love it. Absolutely. Rico says, I want to go through Dr. Axelrod's mini atlas next. I might have that out there. We're not going to go through it tonight. We've got 5 minutes left, and I still have to say a bunch of thank yous. So I will say that was not the end of the book. They had a full plant section, a section about fish, specifically live bearers. They had a section on guppies and swordtails and some things like that. And then they had a very small fish disease thing. It just touched on ick, white spot or ick, fungus and velvet and treatment of those. But that's pretty much it. So I think, even though it was almost 4 decades ago, or a little over 3 decades ago, still very good, very relevant information. Of course, a couple things have become outdated, such as lights. We've got some awesome things that have happened in terms of lighting in the past 30 years. So that's great. But other than that, in terms of a beginner book, I would still recommend this to a beginner, almost 40 years after it was written, and definitely, 15, 20 years from now, probably still be recommending it. So I thought that was very, very cool. It did have the pictures. Some of the pictures were from Herbert Axelrod, Dr. Herbert Axelrod. along with some other cool people. So I thought that was neat. Of course, several of the fish that were from that had pictures from Dr. Axelrod or Axelrod fish. Go figure. The man is a legend in the hobby. So
Dragon Lair says there's 5 different types of micro worms: banana worms, hair worms, white worms, and then my sheet kind of runs out. So
it says etc. John Cox says Walter worms are similar or smaller selected nematode like micro worms, and they culture the same.
Yeah, I knew that.
Sir, how are you?
I just didn't know what white worms were. It's I've got Walter worms and I've had macro worms also. Just I didn't know for sure what white worms were.
Absolutely. So I see mention of metal tanks. It did talk about metal tanks in here. At the very first part of it, when it was getting into how to choose a tank, it was recommending all glass tanks. It said metal frame tanks can still be purchased secondhand, although we do recommend that you purchase an all glass aquarium. So gotta love that. But yeah, I would give it a 10 out of 10. Highly recommend for a beginner's guide to tropical fish. Very, very cool. Of course, a lot more detailed information in there than what I gave you, but I covered all of the basic talking points that I think any new beginner should know about. So hope you all enjoyed that. I had fun, not just reading the book and kind of comparing now versus then and looking at some of the older pictures, but also, writing out my little thing and talking to you all about it and getting some feedback from you all. I've had a blast with doing that. If you've got any questions or comments regarding that or anything else, you got any fishy questions, feel free to throw those out there. I feel like I missed a new member earlier. I feel like I did now that I'm pulling this up. I bet I did because I thought I see with Susan for SLC Aquatics. Did I miss Susan?
I don't know, but
it, and then
awesome.
when I pulled up this to say the thank yous, I'm like, I feel like there was a new member like logo that popped up, but I didn't actually see it. Susan, I'm sorry. Thank you for becoming a member. Welcome to the Fish Room Fever family. Of course, you've got access to the emojis in the chat now and in your comments, and then you've got the behind the scenes stuff. A lot of good stuff on there. I say good in terms of gotten good feedback to it and people seem to enjoy it. So be sure to check that out when you get a chance. We're going to have some more stuff going on, of course, with the fish tank setups and things of that nature. Thank you, Susan, for becoming a member. Very much appreciate that. Grab the super chat list here so I can thank everybody for those super chats and stickers and awesome contributions and help. Never expected, but it's always very much appreciated. Very, very much so. Let's see, we had Sarah Lynn Snow with the $50 super chat starting the stream off. Definitely in the right way. Thank you again for that, Sarah Lynn Snow. Followed by Grumpy Mike with the $1 super pooper chat. We had Eric Furlow's Aquatics. Again, he just started up a channel. Be sure and go check him out. I think he's going to have some great things to come. With $5 super chat, Fantastic Freaks, who's going to be a guest on Saturday's stream on this channel with the $5 super chat. Bob with Kaler's Aquatics also pooping on the stream with the $1 super sticker. Moonstone Aquatics Kim came in with the $20 super chat. Thank you again, Kim, for that. Bob Kaler with the sleepy 99-cent super sticker. Grumpy Mike throwing down the $3 thumbs up super sticker. Bob coming in with the $20 super sticker with the number 1 Samurai Fox. Love that little guy. Thank you, Bob Kaler. The little guy being the fox, not Bob. Bob is much taller than I am. I'm not calling him a little guy. Mary Page Flynn throwing the $1 super sticker down. And Multi-Tank Addiction with the $1 super pooper chat sticker. I appreciate y'all very, very much. Again, a huge thank you to the replay crew. I appreciate you all watching the replays on this. Thank you to all of the people that lurked and listened. Because Beth, I know you're one of them. Talking to you. Thank you, everybody. That is appreciated. Of course, all of the moderators, you all do an amazing job, and you don't get enough thank you for that. So thank you very, very much for being here and helping out and posting links and helping to answer questions and things of that nature. All the people that commented and helped contribute to the chat and answer questions as well. Thank you all for being here. I love you guys. It's always a great time. Let me flip over here. We got 67 people watching now, and we got 70 thumbs ups during this stream. So thank you very much for that. Warms my heart. YouTube likes it, and I really, really appreciate you all for that. So it has been a great stream. We are now 1 minute over. We are going to head over to Chattanooga Ed's channel for the Nocturnal Feeding Show. So grab yourself a little drink refill and something to munch on. If you got to go to the bathroom, now's a great time to get up and do that. And we will see you over there. I will turn it over to you, Ed, real quick.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing y'all over there, and we'll talk a little bit more.
We're not going to keep our hands wet or anything. I forget what it is.
Make sure your tanks are clean. Don't be afraid to get your hands wet.
Love it. Until next
it's
time.
kind of sounding a little better.
It did. Until next time, keep your fish healthy, keep yourselves healthy, catch yourself a little fish room.